Welcome to my channel. Today, I want to share with you a story about trust broken in silence, difficult moral choices, and the haunting weight of secrets we never meant to carry. Let's dive right into it. I didn't expect a quiet suburb in Austin, Texas to throw me into a moral dilemma I still can't shake off. I moved into my new house just under a year ago. Single, late 20s. Trying to start fresh after a series of bad relationships and even worse, roommates. The neighborhood was one of those places where the lawns are always freshly mowed. The mailboxes still sparkle like new, and people wave at you from their porches, even if they don't know your name. I figured it'd be peaceful. I figured wrong. The first person I met was Mark. He lived diagonally across from me, always out in his front yard, either watering his plants or playing with his two kids. A bouncy toddler and a quiet little girl who seemed wiser than her years. He was warm, welcoming, the kind of guy who insisted on helping me carry boxes from my car without waiting for me to decline. "You can't let your neighbor strain her back on day one," he joked, flashing the kind of genuine smile that's become increasingly rare. We weren't close, but we had a nice rhythm. I'd see him most evenings when I walked my dog. Mark would usually be outside, sipping a soda or wiping down his car. Sometimes he'd invite his daughter to help him wash it, which usually turned into a water fight. His wife, rarely outside. I might have caught a glimpse of her twice in the past few months, always through the garage door opening, hair pulled back, never stopping long enough to wave. At first, I thought nothing of it. Not everyone's social. Not everyone wants to be neighborly. And besides, Mark seemed happy. Tired, maybe, but happy. The kind of tired that comes from parenting and work, not from a fractured marriage. Then came last Thursday night. It was about 11:30 p.m., late for most people, but not for me or my dog. Rusty, my energetic mutt, has his final bathroom break around that time. We usually do a short loop around the block, under the orange-tinted glow of the streetlights. The neighborhood's always eerily quiet at that hour, which is probably why I noticed the unfamiliar car immediately. It was parked about 4 houses down from where I was standing. Black sedan, tinted windows, engine still ticking. A man stepped out, tall, wearing a baseball cap low over his face. He didn't go to the house he parked in front of. He just started walking. Not toward a front door, not up a driveway, just down the sidewalk, heading the same direction as me. Now, I don't scare easy, but something about the way he moved, deliberate, eyes darting toward each house he passed, put me on edge. I slowed my pace, letting Rusty sniff a particularly fascinating patch of grass. The man kept walking, then paused, pulling out his phone and glancing around. We were now walking parallel, but on opposite sides of the street. That's when I saw him stop in front of Mark's house. At first, I thought maybe he was lost. Maybe he was texting someone who lived nearby. But then he crossed the street, glancing once over his shoulder. I held my breath. My house was just 2 lots away. I considered ducking inside, but something made me stay. Curiosity. Instinct. I don't know. I just know I didn't move. The man walked around the side of Mark's house, toward the gate that leads to the backyard and the garage's side door. I froze. That door isn't visible from the street. Not unless you know where to look. It's also not the main entrance. Mark always uses the front door or opens the garage with a remote, usually when he's coming home from work. He works the night shift. I remembered he wouldn't be home. Seconds later, the side door opened. It was Mark's wife. She didn't step out, just leaned against the frame, her hair loose for once, wearing a robe. The man approached, and I swear to God, they hugged. Not just a casual hug. It lingered. There might have been a kiss. I couldn't be sure from the angle. But the closeness said more than enough. Then, like shadows slipping into darkness, they both disappeared into the garage. I stood there, stunned. Rusty let out a small bark, sensing my tension, but I barely heard him. My feet eventually moved, but my brain was on fire. I walked back to my house like a ghost, the scene playing on repeat in my head. The embrace, the timing, the secrecy. Was I overreacting? Maybe it was a relative. Maybe it was a surprise visitor. Maybe there was a perfectly innocent explanation, but why avoid the front door? Why wait until Mark was gone? I didn't sleep that night. My phone screen lit up around 12:15 a.m., and I found myself walking back toward the street corner, pretending Rusty needed another walk. Just to double check, the black sedan was still there. I took a picture of the license plate before hurrying back home. Heart pounding. I didn't see Mark the next morning. I don't know what I would have said if I had. Because now, I know something I wasn't supposed to know. I tried to tell myself I'd imagined it, that maybe I'd read too much into one moment. But the thing about seeing something you weren't meant to see, it doesn't go away. It sticks. Like a splinter you can't reach but feel every time you move. I spent the next morning in a daze. Every time I glanced out my window, I half expected Mark to be standing there with his kids, waving, smiling like nothing was wrong. But he wasn't. His car was gone, probably at work. The garage door remained shut. The front yard was still, too still. By afternoon, I'd convinced myself not to say anything. It wasn't my business. I didn't know what I saw. I wasn't even sure it was a kiss. And maybe they were having issues. Who was I to step in and blow up a family? But then I saw her. She stepped out of the garage, sunglasses on, phone pressed to her ear, laughing, not nervously, not awkwardly, just laughing like someone without a care in the world. And that was the moment I stopped making excuses. Because if she had any guilt, any at all, it wasn't showing. I felt a knot form in my stomach. I didn't know this woman. I didn't know her life, her story, or what she was going through. But I did know Mark, and while we weren't best friends, he'd been nothing but kind to me. He was the kind of guy who remembered your dog's name, who asked about your job, who gave your Amazon packages shelter when it rained. And now I was holding a secret that could wreck his life. I tried to go about my day. I worked from home, freelance graphic design, so it's not like I had the distraction of an office or coworkers. Just me, my laptop, and the echo of my own conscience. Around 3 p.m., I couldn't take it anymore. I opened the photo of the license plate I'd taken the night before and stared at it like it would give me answers. The car wasn't there now. Neither was she. I Googled how to run a plate number. It felt dirty, illegal even. I didn't go through with it. But the fact that I wanted to, that said enough. By evening, I was pacing my living room, going over the conversation I might have with Mark. If I ever worked up the nerve. Hey, I saw something weird the other night. No, too vague. Look, I think your wife might be seeing someone way too blunt. What if I was wrong? What if I destroyed his trust for no reason? What if he already knew and just didn't want to deal with it? I sat down on the couch and buried my face in my hands. Rusty jumped up beside me, resting his head on my lap like he could sense the storm inside me. At some point, I messaged my best friend, someone who lived out in Denver, far removed from my situation. Me. What would you do if you saw your neighbor's spouse cheating, but barely knew them? Her. Cheating how? Like, hand-holding. Full make-out session. Me. They hugged. At midnight, at the side garage door, she let him in. Not a regular entrance. No cameras there. Her. Oh, that's... Yeah, sounds shady. Me. I'm not sure if I should tell him. They have 2 kids. Her. Honestly, I'd want to know, but maybe tell him anonymously. Me. He'll know it's me. I'm the only one out walking late at night. Her. Then maybe just pretend you didn't see anything. That last message sat like a stone in my chest. Pretend I didn't see anything. Could I do that? The next morning, I ran into Mark. Of course I did. He was out front again, this time blowing leaves off his driveway while his daughter sat on the front steps, humming to herself. I almost kept walking, but then he looked up and smiled. Morning. Jenna, Rusty's out early today. I swallowed. Yeah, I said, forcing a grin, trying to beat the heat. He nodded, then turned the leaf blower off. You good? You look, I don't know, tired. I laughed, and it sounded more like a cough. Yeah, rough sleep. He gave me a sympathetic look, then pointed at a small cooler by his feet. Hey, want a bottle of water? It's cold. I hesitated, then nodded. Sure. He opened the cooler, handed me one, and for a second, I felt sick. How could someone be this kind and so unaware? Or maybe he wasn't unaware. Maybe he did know. Maybe this was just how people coped, by smiling and pretending. I took the water, thanked him, and walked away. But I didn't feel relieved. I felt worse. The water bottle sat unopened on my kitchen counter for hours, condensation pooling beneath it. I stared at it like it meant something, like it carried the weight of what I now knew but couldn't say. That night, I found myself standing at my bedroom window, lights off, peeking through the blinds like some low-budget spy. I wasn't proud of it, but I couldn't stop myself. I kept glancing across the street, to the garage, to that side door, wondering if the man would return, wondering if she'd let him in again, wondering if I'd be able to live with myself if she did. Around 11:45 p.m., a car crept down the block. Same black sedan. It didn't stop where it did last time. It slowed near the same corner, circled the cul-de-sac at the end of the street, and parked just 2 houses down from mine. My heart skipped. He stepped out again. Same build, same cap. This time, he didn't pull out his phone. He just walked, like he knew exactly where he was going. I watched him cross the street, head straight to Mark's house. And again, he didn't go to the front door. He turned the corner toward the side entrance. And before I could even register what I was doing, I grabbed my phone and slid on my shoes. I didn't think. I just moved. I left my house through the back door, cutting through the narrow path between my place and the neighbor's fence. Rusty followed me to the back gate, but I closed it gently behind me. I didn't want him barking. I made my way around the block, staying close to the shadows, every sense on high alert. My heart was pounding, and for the first time, I wondered what I'd do if someone saw me, what I'd say, but I didn't stop. From the corner across the street, I saw the man reach the gate, and like clockwork, the side door opened. She was there again, only this time, she stepped out further. He leaned in and kissed her. Not a maybe, not a guess, a real kiss, full on, lips on lips, the kind that lasts longer than it should. I stepped back into the shadows, stomach twisting. There it was, confirmation, undeniable, and I hated it. I hated that I knew. I hated that she smiled after he pulled away. I hated that she glanced around casually before leading him inside again. Like this was routine. Like this had happened before. I turned and walked back the way I came, trying not to let my emotions show in the way I moved. But inside, I was on fire. It wasn't just betrayal. It was the ease of it. She didn't look guilty. She didn't look conflicted. She looked practiced. And Mark, he was probably at work, tired, hustling through a night shift just to provide, unaware that while he folded hotel towels or cleared room service trays, a stranger was folding himself into his home. By the time I got home, my hands were shaking. I pulled out my phone again. Photo, video, record. I didn't do any of those things. I just stared at my call screen. No number to dial, no name to tap. I didn't know who to tell, how to tell. The next day was worse. Mark waved at me again. Same smile. He was in a rush, ushering his kids into the car. Probably headed to school or daycare. I waved back, lips pressed together. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab his shoulders and say, "She's lying to you. Right now, in that house." But what if he didn't believe me? What if he blamed me? What if I became the villain? Worse, what if he already knew and was pretending for the sake of the kids? All day, I couldn't focus. I tried working, but everything looked like static. Every line of text blurred. Every notification startled me. I found myself back on Reddit, typing into a throwaway account. "I think my neighbor's wife is cheating. Do I tell him?" The replies were instant. Some said, "Yes, absolutely. He deserves to know." Others warned, "Stay out of it. You'll only get burned." A few suggested leaving an anonymous note. A few more said to mind my own business and stop playing detective. But the most liked comment simply read, "If it were you, wouldn't you want to know?" I sat back and let those words hit. Would I really? I'd like to think so. But the truth is, sometimes ignorance is a kind of peace. A temporary one, sure, but peaceful nonetheless. And yet, If someone knew, if someone watched my partner betray me night after night and said nothing, I'd feel more betrayed by their silence. That night, I didn't walk Rusty. I couldn't. Instead, I stood at the window again, watched. The black sedan never came. But the guilt, it arrived right on time. The days that followed passed like molasses, slow, sticky, and impossible to ignore. I avoided Mark, not blatantly, but I stopped walking Rusty during their usual playtime hours. I didn't linger near the front window. I didn't respond when Mark waved at me from across the street on a sunny Saturday morning. I hated myself for it. It felt cowardly, like I was punishing him for my own guilt, for his trust, for not being able to say something I knew would break him. Then Sunday rolled around. Rusty was whining at the door, clearly needing a walk. I couldn't put it off anymore, so I grabbed his leash and headed out, telling myself I'd stick to the far side of the block. But the universe had other plans. I hadn't made it to the corner before I heard it. Raised voices, not shouting exactly, but loud enough to carry through the quiet afternoon air. I turned instinctively. It was coming from Mark's driveway. He was standing just outside the garage, arms at his sides, shoulders stiff. She was in the doorway. They weren't yelling, but their tone was sharp, their words quick and clipped. I couldn't hear what was being said, but I didn't need to. The way she looked at him, tight-lipped, defiant, the way he shook his head once, stepped back, and turned away. He saw me. For the first time since all this began, he didn't smile, he didn't wave, he just looked. And I knew, he knew. I don't know how. Maybe he found something. Maybe someone else told him. Maybe he confronted her and she confessed. But in that moment, the weight lifted, not completely, not like forgiveness, but like release. Later that evening, I found an envelope taped to my door. No name on the outside. Inside, a single note, written in neat, blocky handwriting. Thank you for not saying anything. I wish more people watched without judging. No signature, but I didn't need one. It wasn't vindication. It wasn't absolution. But it was enough to tell me he'd known. Maybe not the whole time, but long enough, and he didn't hate me for my silence. Still, I sat with that paper in my lap for over an hour, unsure if I deserved the gratitude. I hadn't helped. I hadn't protected him. I'd just stood still, afraid of the truth I already carried. In the weeks that followed, things changed. Mark no longer parked on the street. His car was gone more often than not, sometimes for whole days at a time. The kids still played out front, but it was a sitter now, a tired-looking college girl who barely glanced at the neighbors. The wife, I haven't seen her since. Maybe she moved out. Maybe he did. Maybe they're trying to piece it together behind closed doors, far away from prying eyes and barking dogs. I don't know, and maybe that's for the best. Because I've learned something in all this, not just about trust or betrayal, but about silence. Sometimes, silence screams louder than words. Sometimes, not saying anything is its own kind of answer. And sometimes, the most honest thing you can do is watch and let people walk their own roads, even if they're paved with broken glass. It's strange how easily you start thinking about your own past when someone else's life begins to fall apart. After that note on my door, I kept asking myself why this had affected me so much. Why this situation, someone else's marriage, someone else's secret, felt like it had wrapped its claws into my chest and wouldn't let go. The truth, I'd been in Mark's position before. Well, not exactly. I wasn't married. No kids. No house in a quiet suburban street. But I'd been lied to. I'd trusted someone completely and watched the pieces crumble without even realizing they were breaking. His name was Caleb. We dated for almost 2 years. He had that same easy warmth that Mark had. The kind of guy who remembered how you liked your coffee. Who sent random memes in the middle of a workday just to make you smile. For a long time, I thought he was it, the one. Until I saw a message pop up on his phone while we were watching a movie. I hadn't been snooping. It just lit up on the coffee table. Can't wait to see you again. Friday was amazing. It was signed with a heart emoji. I didn't ask questions right away. Instead, I started watching, reading every subtle shift in his behavior. Every late night work thing, every new cologne that wasn't there before. And when I finally confronted him, weeks later, he didn't even deny it. He just shrugged and said, "I didn't think you'd find out." Like that made it better. Like not knowing somehow meant it wasn't betrayal. I left that night, packed everything, never looked back. And maybe that's why watching her, cut so deep. Because it wasn't just about them, it was about me, reliving that quiet hurt, that invisible war between what you suspect and what you fear to confirm. I thought I'd healed from Caleb, moved on, built walls thick enough that nothing like that could reach me again. But then I saw someone else walk into betrayal blindfolded. And suddenly, I was 26 again, clutching my car keys, screaming into the night air on a dark highway with no idea where I was going. So maybe that's why I couldn't say anything. Not because I was afraid of drama or consequences, but because I knew the moment you know, really know, it changes you forever. It marks you, it reshapes how you trust. And I didn't want to be the person who gave someone that scar, even if it was inevitable. Funny, isn't it? We say we want truth. We say secrets hurt more, but sometimes the secret is the last moment of peace someone has before everything breaks. I think that's why I froze, not because I was weak, but because I remembered how strong you have to be to keep standing when the truth hits. Mark, he's standing, barely, maybe, quietly, but he is, and that means more than anything I could have said. Weeks have passed now, maybe even a month. The seasons haven't changed, but something in me has. Mark's house is quiet these days. No more bubble machines in the yard, no chalk drawings on the driveway. The kids are still around. I hear their laughter sometimes, but it's more subdued, controlled, like even their joy is adjusting to a new normal. I still haven't spoken to him directly. I don't think he wants to talk, and I'm not going to force a conversation he isn't ready for. But we've developed this unspoken rhythm now. We pass each other in the mornings. He's coming in from a run. I'm heading out with Rusty. He nods. I nod. Sometimes. That's enough. Last Friday, I noticed something new, a for sale sign staked into their front lawn. My chest tightened. I wasn't surprised. After everything, after all the things I hadn't said, maybe this was always going to be the next step. Maybe the house held too many memories, too many shadows. Maybe he just needed a reset. I stood across the street that evening, sipping tea, staring at that sign, wondering if I'd failed him, wondering if I should have warned him sooner, given him more time, given him a choice. But regret is like rust. It spreads quietly, slowly, until you don't even recognize the shape of your guilt anymore. And yet, there's peace too, because I know he's moving forward, because I know I didn't weaponize the truth, even if it burned inside me. Sometimes, the people we care about most aren't ours to save. We're just the observers, the ones on the edge of the frame, the quiet neighbors with stories of our own, trying to do the right thing while figuring out what that even means. Before I headed back inside that night, I looked up one more time. Mark was standing at his window. He didn't wave, but he didn't look away either. And in that small, fleeting moment, something passed between us. Acknowledgement, maybe, or forgiveness. I don't need to know which, because now, when I see him, I don't look away. And that's a start. Thanks for tuning in to Reddit Stories. New tales drop daily drama, love, or ghostly glories. Hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you won't miss the next story we tell. Got thoughts to share? Drop them below. We read them all just so you know.